The rusted garage sat on the edge of an abandoned industrial block with its roof sagging, broken windows staring like empty eyes, and weeds swallowing the cracked concrete. Everyone laughed when the wealthy CEO signed away the worthless property to a poor black teenager for just $1,000, calling it the biggest mistake the boy would ever make. Workers shook their heads. Neighbors whispered that the place was beyond saving. Even the city inspector quietly believed the building would collapse before it could ever become useful again. But exactly 6 months later, luxury cars lined the same street, television crews crowded the sidewalks, investors fought for meetings, and the same CEO who had mocked the purchase stood frozen in disbelief as he realized the junk garage had become the foundation of a business empire worth millions. Before we continue this unforgettable journey, if you believe kindness can defeat cruelty, if you believe hope can rise from broken places, and if you believe every person deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel so our community continues growing through stories that remind us never to give up. 18-year-old Everett Brooks had spent most of his childhood learning that life rarely offered fairness. Raised by his grandmother, Clara Brooks, in a tiny rental home on the edge of the city, he understood hard work long before most children learned multiplication tables. His grandmother cleaned offices during the day while Everett mowed lawns, repaired bicycles, collected scrap metal, and fixed broken lawn equipment for neighbors. They never complained about having little because Clara believed gratitude was worth more than money. She often reminded Everett that every object someone threw away still carried the possibility of becoming useful in the hands of someone willing to see value where others saw failure. Those lessons quietly settled deep inside him, shaping the way he looked at the world. Only a few miles away stood the headquarters of one of the largest automotive supply companies in the state. Its CEO, Preston Caldwell, had built an impressive reputation for making profitable decisions without allowing emotion to influence business. Investors admired his efficiency, newspapers praised his financial instincts, and competitors respected his relentless focus on numbers. Yet success had slowly convinced him that everything possessed a measurable value and that people without wealth rarely had ideas worth listening to. When his company acquired several abandoned industrial properties through a legal settlement, one forgotten garage became nothing more than an accounting problem. The building required taxes, insurance, and maintenance while producing absolutely no profit. Selling it for almost nothing seemed better than continuing to lose money. Everett discovered the listing while searching public property auctions inside the local library. The photographs showed cracked walls, a leaking roof, and decades of neglect, but he noticed something nobody else seemed to recognize. The garage sat beside 3 busy neighborhoods with almost no affordable repair shops nearby. The structure included large doors, generous storage space, and a wide parking area buried beneath weeds. He imagined clean workbenches, rebuilt engines, recycled parts, and local teenagers learning valuable skills. Everyone else saw decay. Everett saw possibility. Gathering $1,000 became the first impossible challenge. Every saved paycheck, every bicycle repaired, every old appliance dismantled for scrap, every weekend spent hauling discarded furniture slowly filled a small metal cash box beneath Clara's bed. When they finally counted exactly $1,000, the bills were wrinkled, folded, and collected one small victory at a time. Clara smiled through proud tears before placing her weathered hand over Everett's and telling him that courage sometimes looked exactly like spending everything you had on something nobody else believed in. The closing lasted only minutes. Preston Caldwell barely glanced at the young buyer standing across the table wearing worn work boots and a faded denim jacket. To him, Everett represented another hopeful dreamer who would eventually discover how expensive failure could become. The CEO even joked to his legal assistant that the garage would probably be back on the market within a year after the boy realized what real maintenance costs looked like. Everett simply thanked everyone politely, accepted the keys, and drove away in an aging pickup truck whose paint had almost completely faded beneath years of sunlight. The first morning inside the garage nearly crushed his confidence. Dust covered every surface. Rainwater stained the floor. Rusted tools littered forgotten shelves. Birds had built nests in broken rafters. Entire sections of concrete required repair before heavy equipment could safely enter. Yet instead of seeing overwhelming destruction, Everett made a notebook filled with achievable goals. One wall each day. One repair each afternoon. One improvement after another. Success, he believed, was rarely built through giant miracles but through thousands of disciplined decisions. News spread quickly throughout the neighborhood that the young owner worked from sunrise until late afternoon every single day without hiring expensive contractors. Retired carpenter Graham Fletcher volunteered leftover lumber after watching Everett rebuild damaged shelves. A local plumber named Nolan Pierce donated unused pipes from renovation projects. An elderly widow, Evelyn Mercer, brought homemade sandwiches every afternoon because she remembered how her late husband had once struggled to launch his own business. High school students appeared during weekends carrying paintbrushes simply because Everett treated everyone with respect regardless of what they could contribute. Rather than purchasing expensive equipment, Everett searched landfills, estate sales, and auctions for broken tools others considered useless. He repaired compressors, restored hydraulic lifts, rebuilt welding machines, and refurbished cabinets that looked destined for the scrapyard. Every repaired machine represented money saved and another lesson learned. Soon the once-abandoned garage slowly transformed into a bright, organized workshop where every tool had a purpose and every inch reflected determination instead of neglect. Instead of competing directly with larger repair shops, Everett introduced something few businesses offered. Customers could watch repairs, learn basic maintenance, and understand exactly what work was being completed. He explained problems patiently, taught teenagers how engines functioned, and refused to recommend unnecessary repairs simply to increase profits. People who had grown tired of expensive surprises finally found someone they trusted completely. His reputation expanded faster than any advertisement could have accomplished. Families recommended him to relatives. Delivery drivers mentioned his honesty to coworkers. Teachers suggested the garage to struggling students searching for practical job skills. Every satisfied customer became another voice spreading the story of the young mechanic who treated every vehicle as though it belonged to his own family. Meanwhile, Preston Caldwell occasionally drove past the property during daytime meetings with little interest. Each month he noticed cleaner windows, freshly painted walls, and more parked vehicles. Curious, he asked an executive assistant to investigate. The report surprised him. Revenue had increased steadily. Community organizations praised Everett's apprenticeship program. Local newspapers highlighted the garage's environmental commitment to restoring discarded equipment instead of replacing it. Even more surprising, profits came not from luxury clients but from ordinary working families who appreciated honesty. Still convinced the business could not sustain long-term growth, Preston dismissed the reports and focused elsewhere. But Everett continued innovating. He partnered with technical colleges, offering students practical experience while providing affordable repairs to single parents, elderly residents, and essential workers. He launched a rebuilt parts program that dramatically lowered repair costs while reducing waste. Insurance companies soon noticed the quality of his work and began recommending his garage to policyholders. Only 6 months after purchasing the abandoned building, a regional business magazine published a feature describing Everett's company as one of the fastest-growing community-based automotive businesses in the region. Investors contacted him daily. Franchise opportunities appeared. National media requested interviews highlighting his remarkable transformation of forgotten property into a thriving enterprise built on trust, sustainability, and opportunity. The same industrial block once filled with silence now buzzed with activity every morning. Small cafes opened nearby to serve waiting customers. A hardware supplier moved into another abandoned building because of increased traffic. Property values climbed as neglected businesses found new life. Dozens of local residents found stable employment because one young man refused to believe a decaying garage represented failure. Eventually Preston Caldwell requested a meeting. Everett accepted graciously. When the CEO entered the beautifully restored workshop, sunlight poured through skylights that Everett and volunteers had installed months earlier. Clean floors reflected rows of organized equipment. Young apprentices confidently repaired vehicles while experienced mechanics patiently guided them. Customers smiled instead of worrying. Laughter echoed through a building once considered worthless. For the first time in many years, Preston felt something unfamiliar. Regret. He realized he had evaluated the garage exactly as he evaluated financial reports. He measured only current value instead of future potential. More painfully, he had underestimated the young man standing before him simply because poverty had hidden extraordinary vision beneath worn clothing. Rather than asking to buy the property back, Preston quietly toured every corner of the facility while Everett explained how recycled materials, community volunteers, honest service, and patient leadership had created sustainable success. Each explanation chipped away at years of pride until the CEO finally admitted that selling the garage had been one of the greatest misjudgments of his career. Instead of celebrating revenge, Everett responded with remarkable humility. He explained that the garage had never truly been about buildings or profits. It had always been about proving that forgotten places and overlooked people deserved someone willing to believe in them. Holding bitterness would only waste energy better spent helping others rise. Those words changed Preston far more deeply than any financial loss ever could. Within weeks, his corporation announced a new initiative converting abandoned commercial properties into affordable business spaces for young entrepreneurs from struggling communities. Rather than allowing empty buildings to decay, the company partnered with local organizations to identify determined individuals who possessed ideas but lacked opportunity. Preston personally credited Everett for inspiring the transformation, admitting publicly that success required recognizing human potential long before financial results appeared. Everett continued expanding carefully, refusing shortcuts that compromised his principles. Every new location included apprenticeship programs, scholarship funds, and community workshops teaching practical repair skills, financial responsibility, and entrepreneurship. Former students eventually opened their own businesses, creating opportunities for others just as Everett once received unexpected support from neighbors who believed in his dream. Clara often stood outside the original garage during sunny afternoons watching families arrive with confidence instead of worry. She remembered counting wrinkled bills beneath her bed, wondering whether they were risking everything for a dream too large to reach. Looking across the thriving property filled with employees, customers, flowering gardens, and hopeful young apprentices, she understood that faith sometimes produced harvests impossible to imagine at the beginning. The old garage sign remained mounted above the entrance, carefully preserved despite every renovation. Everett insisted it stay because he wanted every visitor to remember where the journey began. Rust could become strength. Neglect could become beauty. Rejection could become opportunity. Every scratch reminded him that value was never determined by appearances but by the courage of those willing to rebuild what others abandoned. Before this story comes to its close, we'd love to hear from you. What lesson touched your heart the most? Have you ever seen someone transform something everyone else had given up on? Leave a meaningful comment below because your story might inspire another person to keep believing in their own impossible dream. As the afternoon sun bathed the once-forgotten garage in warm golden light, Everett watched another group of apprentices unlock their futures through honest work, compassion, and determination. The building that had once symbolized failure now stood as a monument to resilience, proving that greatness is rarely found in perfect beginnings but often grows from overlooked places where hope refuses to surrender. Preston had learned that wealth without humility sees only broken buildings, while faith sees tomorrow hidden inside today's ruins. Clara had proven that love can nurture courage stronger than any fortune. Everett had shown an entire city that no dream is too small when fueled by integrity, perseverance, and kindness. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember that every discarded opportunity, every forgotten place, and every underestimated person may already be carrying the foundation of tomorrow's greatest success.